Testing, testing. Testing, 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 testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing a little more. Testing a little bit more. Welcome to the Hoboken Historical Museum. We're going to get started, so if everybody could grab a seat, but actually you might want to grab a drink and then grab a seat. There are snacks back there also. So, welcome to the Hoboken Historical Museum. My name is Danny Schott. I'm the poet in residence here at the museum. I'd like to thank the Hoboken Historical Museum for creating a space in our gentrified city where poetry is still welcome. Thank you to Bob Foster, Vera Sirota, Bill Curran, Rand Hopp, and the entire staff. A couple of things. We're going to be back doing the poetry thing on Saturday, April 18th, and we're going to be doing a Fare Thee Well poetry event for our one and only Buttered Roll, who's leaving for greener pastures of Queens, New York. So mark your calendars, that's Saturday, April 18th. I would also like to respectfully acknowledge and recognize our responsibility to the original caretakers of this land, water, and air, the Lenape tribe, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. The Lenape named Hoboken, which in their language means land of the tobacco pipe, or simply long pipe. The Lenape were promised their own sovereign state in New Jersey for fighting against the British during the American Revolution. Guess what? The government lied. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. We're celebrating 25 plus 1 year for CavanKerry Press, which is a small press with a big reach based out of Fort Lee, New Jersey. Well, let me read to you what I got here. As a not-for-profit literary press serving art and community, CavanKerry Press is committed to expanding the reach of poetry and other fine literature to a general readership by publishing works that explore the emotional and psychological landscapes of everyday life, and to bring that art to the underserved where they live, work, and receive services. Founded in 2000 in Fort Lee, New Jersey by Joan, Cusack, handler, and Florenz, Eisman, CavanKerry began with the aim of demystifying poetry. That idea has grown, and the press has continued to bring poetry to people where they live, work, and receive services. CavanKerry has worked tirelessly to keep New Jersey a literary hub in the 21st century. As of March 2026, CavanKerry Press has published 136 volumes. CavanKerry's 96 authors are geographically, culturally, and economically and stylistically diverse. I'm proud to be one of those authors. Now, just a little more. This comes from State of the Arts, which is a TV show on PBS. It's really State of the Arts New Jersey. And this is what it said. CavanKerry Press, a small New Jersey publisher of beautiful editions of poetry and creative nonfiction, has flourished by focusing on works that explore the emotional and psychological landscapes of everyday life. Meet, and this is from their, segment of the show, meet the founder, Joan Cusack Handler, and current executive director, Gabriel Cleveland, as they reflect on CavanKerry's journey, now the largest publisher of its kind in New Jersey. Now, you're going to meet these two soon enough They're not going to talk so much about CavanKerry. I mean, they might, but today is for them to share their art with you, okay? They don't have to always be publishers. They can be writers as well. I know, as someone who used to publish a magazine, sometimes we just want to be poets and writers. I do want to tell you, books are for sale in the back. There's a good, healthy offering of CavanKerry Press books. And also, I like to open these things with a poem. And this poem is by a poet I very much admire. He passed away late this year, and he was huge. Am I saying it right? Huge, I'm trying. He had a huge impact on CavanKerry Press. He was editor. He is in the heart of every CavanKerry author, and his name is Baron Wormser. Like I said, he passed away earlier this year. Oh, and this is from a book that was recently published posthumously, James Baldwin, Smoking a Cigarette and Other Poems. And this is a poem I really like in it. I know it's going to end, not from the start, but near the start, when I'm by myself in my room and know that's who I am, by myself, but don't know what end is. I haven't a clue and feel I haven't a clue, although I played the board game when I was a kid, even though my older brother tells me I'm still a kid. But I know I don't know. I mean, really know the kind of know that I see sometimes in people's faces, as if they embraced the basic hurt and never left it and never could tell anyone, so just stayed there in their eyes and around their mouths, sort of sullen and lost. But I can't say any of this because I don't know. But I intuit even when I touch her breasts, and it's the best feeling. Really a feeling in every sense I've ever had, and that's just the beginning. But I know that the feeling is going to end the way 1 minute becomes another, and I hate saying good night and going home because I want to swallow time. I want there to be no beginnings or endings, no numbers, no dates. I just want the feeling that can't last because it's a feeling. And even when I wake up the next morning and start singing some rock and roll, I know I've had it. I found and lost my soul. Baron Wormser. Baron Wormser. Okay, let's get on with the show. Joan Cusack Handler is a poet, memoirist, and psychologist. She has published 3 verse memoirs, Glorious, The Red Canoe, Love in Its Making, and Orphans, and 1 prose memoir, Confessions of Joan the Tall. With Gabriel Cleveland, she co-edited Places We Return To, which is right back there, an anthology of selections from the first 100 books published by CavanKerry Press, the press she founded in 2000 and continues to serve. Her poems are widely published and have received awards from Boston Review, 5 Pushcart nominations. She is also the author of the PsychologyToday.com series of Art and Science. Let's have a warm, loud applause for Joan Cusack Handler. I feel like I'm sitting in
Hi, it's great to see all of you. And Danny, thank you so much. Oh, okay.
I got it. You got it.
Hello, is that good? Yeah? Okay. I'm very grateful to Danny for doing this event and for his work and for the work of the other writers, CavanKerry writers that are like, maybe I need to sit further. How's this? Better? Oh, okay. So, it's strange to be reading from a memoir with poets, even though, yes, I am a poet. It's basically, the book came out of a depression that I was in around the beginning of the early part of COVID. And it took probably about 5 years to finish the book. So I wondered whether or not I should actually, let me take my watch, put my watch on the table so I can watch my time. And actually, it was the book that brought me out of the depression. It really was the book that brought me out of the depression. And writing, which is my heart speak, was magical in it because my goal was to find out what was going on that was depressing me. What did I need or not need? So I just sat down and I basically wrote what came into my head without, writers know this, without the privilege of falsifying anything. So I didn't know what to do with it at the beginning. I thought, I don't know, I thought that I originally thought I wrote this for my son and my husband, and then I thought I really read it for all the people out there who were suffering depression and were suffering with a lot of pain. And they were the people that I wanted to reach. So with that in mind, I will read some pieces to you. Earlier pieces, earlier life. Patient clinician. Lately, it's mid to late afternoon before she washes her face and brushes her teeth. Lethargy, no appetite, endless sleep. Diagnosis, clinical depression. Multiple triggers, death of her sister, COVID paralyzing life, guns, violence, hate. At the apex, her failing body. COVID, nope. Psychotherapy prescribed, but her therapists deceased. Others quarantined, not seeing patients. Her problem, she states, is that she's old. But she doesn't know how to be old. She's learned how to be successful, sexy, loving, how to be pregnant, to parent, even how to be beautiful. Counsel is abundant, but no one teaches her how to know when she's old. All she sees are the years rushing and her tripping to catch up. Fell 3 times last year. It's one of the hazards of aging and facing decline. I am the patient, and I am the doctor assigned to heal myself. The first, not surprising to myself, the first material came from my body and the kind of relationship I've had with my body throughout my life. So the title of the first section is The Body, the Culprit. The worst day. My battle with my body began in early childhood, when I noticed I was different from the other kids. Always in a rush, my legs seemed to fly out from under me, leaping many inches off the graph for what was normal for a girl my size. The worst day of my life was the first day of 6th grade, when Sister Mary Lucille announced that we were going to be measured and weighed. My weight didn't bother me. I was quite slim, but my height terrified me. My belly boiled and sweat poured down my neck and chest. I jumped up from my desk, blurting out, "I need to go to the girls' room, sister," and ran out of the room. It took forever for my breath to slow enough for me to walk shakily back to the classroom. "Joan, dear, we've reached the last of the C's, so it's your turn," Sister said. I don't know how I walked to the front. My vision tunneled and my whole body was trembling. Sister's voice sang out, "Nice and straight, dear," while she gently pinned my shoulders back and announced in the loudest voice I'd ever heard, "Joan Cusack, 5 feet, 11 and a half inches. I was 11 years old. Looming. Jolly green giant, beanstalk, stretch. I was the butt of every bully's joke as I walked to school or the store. I especially hated trips to the grocer's, and in a family of 6, there were many always in the afternoon between school and supper. The boys lurked, particularly in the alleyways between the rows of houses, on the lookout for someone to laugh at and torture. My brother, Sonny, a year older than me, was often with them. My nemesis all my young life, his favorite taunts, were switching off the lights in the cellar when he knew I was down there folding laundry, putting the Cheerios box between us, during breakfast so he didn't have to see my face, and laughing at my small breasts, hollering, "Carpenter's dream, fat as a board," and 2 peas on an ironing board. As I approached the alley between the 2 corner houses, the loudest boy would call out, "Hey, Stretch, how's the weather up there?" Followed by the rest of the pack chanting, "Yeah, how's the weather up there?" Most days, I just walked straight ahead as if I didn't even hear them. But sometimes I struck back, gathering my courage and calling, "Just fine." I loved those moments. I felt strong and unafraid. Even when I was scared that I was indeed a giant who would never stop growing, I refused to stoop over to reduce my height. Though my belly scalded with shame, I pretended I didn't hear the insults and walked straighter with conviction that spelled pride to the youngest neighborhood kids who watched from their yards. I never let anyone know how embarrassed I felt. Even my mother, though she clearly surmised that I was being tortured again. She insisted that the boys were jealous of me and my height was something to be proud of. I knew that wasn't true, and though I tried to tell her, she was relentless. Sonny continued to torment me, but I said nothing. Our older sister, Catherine, also hated being tall. She was 4 years older and 3 inches shorter, and she probably already reached her full height. I couldn't understand why she complained about her height to me. It felt mean, but I remained silent. Saying nothing to my girlfriends, parents, teachers. But I remained silent, saying nothing to my girlfriends, parents, teachers. No one knew how I felt, at times even me. I envy the nomad, moving further and further from home. I can't be a poet without sprinkling them through prose, so you'll find several of them. Sometimes I think that my longing for isolation is rooted in my feeling like an outsider all my young life. I belonged nowhere, most comfortable when I was alone. I dreamed of walking with a sheet over my head and body so no one could see me. I lived as if that were true, as if I didn't hear the taunting of my brother and the neighborhood boys, as if I were proud, happy, beautiful, as if I didn't feel. My only pleasure came in the awareness that I never gave the boys the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart when they teased me, as if I didn't care about them or my height. One's center must really be home. Morphing. In time, height became something to be proud of, as Mom had insisted. From feeling ugly and disgusting during my early years, I came to understand that what had been horrible in kids' circles could morph into beauty in the adult world. In a matter of a year or two, I went from having no boys interested in me, even having to get a blind date for both my high school and college proms, to having as many guys as I wanted. It was a transformation that reshaped not only how others saw me, but more importantly, how I saw myself, a profound gift. I was suddenly in charge, desired, attractive. Along with 2 college girlfriends, Bridget and Joan, I started going to Friday night adult dances down on 86th Street in Manhattan's Germantown, which was known for its church and club-sponsored social events for immigrant German and Scandinavian men and women anxious to meet Americans. It was there that joy exploded. As the tall women's department didn't tend to stock stylish clothes, Mom took it upon herself to start making my clothes, worthy of my Friday nights out. And she was good at it. Our first step was to go to Macy's and pick out a pattern and fabric. A magenta, turquoise, or navy taffeta, or my favorites, white pot de soie, black velvet, or burgundy matelassé. Then shortly before Mom cut out the dress, I'd begin to redesign it. Let's make angel sleeves that swished as I walk. Or maybe we could change this ballet neck to a V. But how about adding a toss of emerald silk as a shawl, extra taffeta to the navy tulip press to emphasize my waist? It was endless, me designing and Mom altering. Amazingly, for a person who was so depressed herself and often cranky, or worse, she never lost her cool or made me feel bad for doubling her work. She never insisted I be satisfied with the original pattern. Instead, she was my willing, even eager partner, sharing her own ideas about highlighting a sleeve or adding a jacket to complete a look. We were in heaven. Two neophyte designers giving birth to our just conceived creation. She surprised me once with a voluminous black velvet shawl to complete the white strapless pot de soie. It was perfect. I loved it. She loved it. I felt myself walking differently, gliding almost, and I was ready. My first adult dance. The dance hall was decorated with green velvet, the color of Christmas and the giant oak that kept watch over our beach when I was a girl. Floor-to-ceiling drapes and countless chairs and small tables covered with white pristine cloths. At the center of each table were 4 or 5 yellow tea roses in thin glass vases. Gold sconces hung from the walls behind a stage graced with dark-haired, gorgeous men tuning violins, cellos, and a piano. I did my best to ignore the rush of butterflies that filled my belly and chest. As I approached the table I shared with Bridget and Joan, somehow managing to walk straight. After a few steps, I glided, truly. And as I had hoped, lots of men asked me to dance. Many were Scandinavian and comfortable around tall women. They eagerly, I lost my place. I did my best to ignore the rush of butterflies that filled my belly and chest as they approached the table I shared with Bridget and Joan, somehow managing to walk straight. After a few steps, I glided, truly. And as I had hoped, lots of men asked me to dance. Many were Scandinavian and comfortable around tall women. They eagerly told me how beautiful I was and how much they'd like to see me again. What lovely moments in my life. Such heaven. After that, I started dating and grew more and more confident, more daring, until I could walk into a room, pick out the most handsome guy, and set about attracting him to me, which never took long. Eye contact is a magical potion. I was filled with a self-love that I hadn't thought possible. I wasn't Joan anymore. I wasn't Joan anymore. I was reborn. What's finished? Thank you so much.
Lights and cold room available back there.
So nice having you gentlemen.
Yeah, sure.
How's the weather up there? A comment nobody ever said to me. But speaking of such things, Gabriel Cleveland is a poet and fiction writer with an MFA in poetry from the Solstice Creative Writing Program. Along with Joan Cusack Handler, he co-edited Places We Return to, a 20th anniversary retrospective on the publishing history of CavanKerry Press, also available back there. An avid video gamer and music lover, he hosts the Andover Special, a weekly internet radio program on Homegrown Radio NJ, and sings bass, it says bass 2? That's a thing? Okay. Bass 2 in Jersey City's North River Sing Community Chorus. Gabriel is also a mental health advocate, often working online to raise awareness, visibility, and money for the psychological and psychosocial issues. Prior to his time with CavanKerry Press, he spent several years in the field of caregiving for people with increased physical and/or mental needs, and wants you to know that you're not alone. Let's hear it for Gabriel Cleveland.
Thank you so much, Danny. And there was a phrase that I think Joan used in her passage, which was a profound gift. I believe that's what it was. Don't fact check me, but it feels like a profound gift to be here today, reading with three other writers who I so deeply admire, and to be hosted by yet another reader I so deeply admire. So thank you, Danny. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Joseph. And thank you, Kat. I hope you all have as good a time as I'm having. So, all right, this first poem is kind of, what was it? Now I'm blanking on the word. It's an invitation, that's the word, especially as someone who refers to himself as a recovering perfectionist. It's an invitation to anyone else who might be on that path as well, and also just an invitation in general. Join the rest of us who dine with failure regularly. It's not such a bad guest most of the time. It tells a lot of jokes and occasionally even treats. When you get used to having it around, you can almost forget those days you would draw curtains and turn off lights when it knocked on your door and called your name, insisting there was an easier way to live. You can almost remember success holding you against the bed, whispering in your mouth that it would be just you two forever. We've all heard that song and dance before. Wipe your eyes, have a seat. We saved you a plate. And on that note, this next poem is kind of like a slightly annoyed message to myself in between, during the long stretch of being single, sort of like a caveat for when I might one day be in a relationship again. It's called A Million Kisses. And it's like, you know, don't be such a perfectionist, set some more reasonable goals. A million kisses comes out to 100 a day for over 27 years. If you don't try, you'll never make it. If you try hard, well then what are you doing with your life? Waiting around each corner for a smooch, tongue lolling like a dog? It's not gonna happen. Be reasonable. Oh, like a $250,000? No, you're not collecting Funko Pops to gather a wall of dust in a corner here. We're talking about cultivating love, like an azalea or some other finicky plant that takes trimming and patience and flowers wildly after a long spell. Its snowy or bloody blossoms the focal point of the yard until sun scorch or frost puts an end to the season and the waiting and the care, if you care to see it bloom again, begins. Other than a couple little haiku, which you'll hear one of in a couple minutes, this is the most recent poem I've written. Just finished it the other day because I always like to have something new, you know. It is called, I Am Inside, Please Call Me. And 2 lines like that. There it is, plain and simple on the whiteboard stuck to the phone repair shop's front door. I get the distinct impression that not calling means I've doomed some sorry technician to being trapped inside a device for all eternity, at the whim of whatever stranger might finally punch in those digits. I don't know why I never thought about a whiteboard as days, months, years rolled by and I remained trapped, alone, at the mercy of electronics, skin crawling with wait for a call, a ping, a digital whisper. Of course, I considered my share of tacky solutions. Help me bumper sticker. Hello, I am single t-shirt. Pretending to tolerate bar life? No. Falling in love with my phone, which never tells me it needs a break, carries with it the whole litany of human pain and occasional joy. Keeps going until it faints. Poor thing. I used it exclusively to write this poem in between months of watching sordid videos, scrolling aimlessly, poking at work email, sometimes just staring into its abyss, falling asleep with its rectangular afterglow seeped in behind my eyelids. I could get lost in that light, empty though it is, like anyone who sees himself in someone else and mistakes it for love. I am abuzz with trivial truths, powered on so long some days I nearly collapse. I've been dropped so many times, the repair costs are getting prohibitive. I am also the vacant storefront, someone tinkering out of sight, ever engaged in the labor of love, hurting for patronage. I know I contain a light someone could get lost in if only they would look. I know I'm asking for what I myself refused to do, but consider my plea. I am inside. Please call me. Glad when someone answers the call. So this next poem is a little shout out to my cohort at CavanKerry. He's not here today, but it is his birthday, so he's here in spirit. Dimitri Reyes ran a workshop that I was so fortunate to sit in on, and he gave everyone the liberty to take poetic license in writing a self-portrait. And those who know me know that I'm sometimes a little too literal. So it was really, really meaningful to have that permission. And usually, I don't know, I usually like to walk out a little bit with this one. So yeah, this is Self-Portrait, October 2024. I have more eyes than I have fingers, eyes on each finger, eyes in my ears, eyes for taste buds, I am an eldritch horror in disguise, a cascade of nerve endings, ending in darkness, which is to say, never ending, expanding with the dark to the very edge of the universe and growing, growling like solar wind, shattering the static with a low call. Something between a beckon and a bellow, below the threshold of your hearing, yet so thoroughly heard as to be already nestled beneath your skin. I am one of those proto-tiles that looks almost like one thing and not quite another, fitting together only with myself again and again, some fractal with no other innate function but to be. I am and I am not the me in the mirror or in photographs, rendered backward or motionless as if taxidermied. I have a ferocious burning in my brain, a momentum I cannot capture. Everything moves through me. I move through everything and feel it every moment. I see it all. On the subject of witness, I think it is important, to remember. And in July of 2024, I live in Fort Lee, and there was a shooting of a woman in Fort Lee who was experiencing a mental health crisis, and it didn't get the same coverage that a lot of those did. So this one is in her memory, in memory of Victoria Lee. It's called, in parentheses, mental health, and then the rest of the title is just crisis with an exclamation point. And it's short. The police are coming to kill you. Chose not to help before seeing you. When one goes lethal, they all do. Batter down your door, 3 quick knocks. Nothing stopping them now. Gunshot. If you see the video, that's basically it. So I obviously wanted that witness there, but also to sort of move into something calmer after that. So the next two are a haiku and what the beat poet Allen Ginsberg, in honor of our own beat poet Danny here, coined the American sentence, which is just a 17-syllable poem with no particular framing beyond that. So the haiku is: rainy morning light, 7:30 a.m. mid-March. Underlit fog swarms Manhattan. In New Jersey, lights flicker, homes gleam. And to go along with that, we have Spring Drive. This is the American sentence. No matter where you look, you are looking out the window and there's rain. So this next one is a bit, I don't know, it's about an avocado. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. It's called How to Savor an Avocado. With your hands, cradle its fullness and its weight. Press the ridges of your fingerprints against its small black bumps as it gives itself, but slightly, into your grip. Twist the stem for a green peak within, then halve it. Crescent movement of your knife. Hold the fruit along its newfound seam and repeat your cut for quarters to unfold lotus-like from its tender wooden heart. Pinch the corner of the skin and peel slowly, unsealing an envelope, thumb at rest in the concave of its verdant flesh. 2 fingers arched along its back. Welcome it to your mouth, the secret you repeat upon first hearing until it's part of you. Introduce it to each of your teeth. Let it swaddle the enamel before it ever meets your throat. Like desperately good news, swallow slowly so it will last. Speaking of last, this is a penultimate poem, so it's not quite, I'm not quite there yet. But this is, and the title is not necessarily true anymore, but true enough. It's called The Last Time I Truly Felt Like a Poet, because as Danny alluded to earlier, we spend so much time helping others and working on their books. Sometimes there's a long window of time between sitting down and working on our own stuff. So this is that. The last time I truly felt like a poet. This morning, I passed the white-haired man and his wispy, shoebox-sized dog, which looks like it should have some name like Oreo, or Yin Yang, or Half Moon Cookie. Cookie for short, of course. And remembered the last time I saw them, how I was rounding the corner to our parking lot and became so taken by the huge silver moon hanging low over the horizon, I just had to roll my window down, crank by frantic crank, manual car and everything, to shout, no doubt startling him and his companion, "The moon! Look at the moon!" Pointing as if it was the first and last time I would ever see such a thing, desperate to share its luminous splendor with any other human being, even one who could only be bothered to nod at my morning hellos. Or should I say, used to nod. I mean, now, if there's acknowledgement at all, it's so slight as to be imperceivable. But I can't say I blame him. He has seen me as few have, a full-on poet, bathing in what might be a dangerous glow, delirious behind the wheel of a beat-up old machine, a lunatic crying out in the dark. And between when I wrote that and now, I was like, I have to ask, what is your dog's name? And wouldn't you know it, Luna. So you really can't make that stuff up, So, all right, final poem, and this one's a little bitter at the state of the world, but it's also very self-actualized in certain ways. Well, you'll see. It's called On Finding Out I Might Be Telepathic, and I reference a few bands and a podcast that I will never listen to. On Finding Out I Might Be Telepathic. What a journey the past couple years have been. Days before 36, I found a home on the autism spectrum, a place with the kind of perfect harmony and peace I used to cry over in movies because I was sure it didn't exist. And suddenly, it not only existed, but was everywhere. Sunlight cradling the edges of the blackberry leaves, the Hudson playfully slapping the muddy shore, waves of sound pulsing through me, a pitcher of water among an ocean of pitchers, trembling in time to the beat of Poppy and Orla Gartland, and Nicole Atkins wrapping her arm over my shoulder, belting, "On any other night, I'd wish the world would end." And feeling, finally, how untrue that wish had become, and wishing only to be heard and understood, the way I now understand myself, wishing for any human contact, now that I feel human. Throwing myself into the pit for the first time at a cheek-face show, knowing I was safe, bouncing off other NDs like a bottle of soda that had been shaken its entire life before finally hitting the ground and letting all that energy loose. It felt like magic, like flying, like I wanted to jump up on stage and tell everyone what they already knew, that magic was real and there in the room with us, not some sort of pseudoscience, but something you could feel ricocheting through your bones. So imagine my surprise this spring when I heard about the telepathy tapes. That's the podcast. How easily people confuse facilitated communication for the supernatural and cover their autistic children in a brand new illusion, a lie, a fresh mask, in case we didn't have more than our share of masks already at the ready, flinching at the very threat of seeing and being seen. A far more grounded reality is at play, the truly special, hidden in the mundane. How we can pick up patterns no one else can see, or hear electricity coursing through fluorescent lights, or fixate so fully we lose our capacity for speech, immersed as we are in a flow state. A flow state, something I'm given to understand anyone can experience. A beauty I have in common with each of you, breathing the same air in this room, glowing with poetry, the power to connect with words. The same people who think I can read their minds think me and my sort will never be able to write a poem. They're dumping out their Tylenol, telling expectant mothers to tough out their pain, raiding pharmacy shelves for leucovorin, robbing chemo patients of critical recovery medicine in the process. You don't need to be a fucking mind reader to know how that's gonna go. But enough for a moment, please, about the fascists and eugenicists. Let's return to these words. How they settle into us like something true we knew was coming before I ever opened my mouth to speak. Thank you so much.
That was terrific, Gabriel. It just was. I'm going to speak out of turn for a minute. It was great hearing those poems. But what I'd like to see at some point, instead of you reading from a notebook, reading from a book like this. Now, what I know about Gabriel is he's executive director of CavanKerry Press, and he probably has a misplaced sense of integrity and humility to ever think of publishing his own work with CavanKerry, but I give you permission. Do we give him permission? I mean, really, here, CavanKerry's mission statement says, CavanKerry Press is committed to expanding the reach of poetry and other fine literature to a general readership by publishing works that explore the emotional and psychological landscapes of everyday life. That's what Gabriel just did. Okay. Now that I've overstepped my bounds. Catherine, or Cat Doty, as I know her, is a poet, artist, and teacher from Paterson, New Jersey. She is the author of 2 volumes of poems with CavanKerry Press, Momentum in 2004, winner of a Forward Magazine Book of the Year Award, and Wonderama, winner of the Paterson Poetry Prize. Doty has for decades worked as a visiting poet for the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, the Frost Place, and countless schools, and was named the New Jersey State Council on the Arts inaugural Distinguished Teaching Artist. A featured reader at the Dodge Poetry Festival, her work has appeared on National Public Radio's The Writer's Almanac, as well as in many journals and anthologies. Doty is the recipient of a National Endowment of the Arts Fellowship, an Academy of American Poets Prize, and fellowships from the New Jersey State Council of the Arts and the New York Foundation for the Arts. Let's hear it for Cat Doty. like to say?
I'll sit or I'll stand.
What
I'll
do you want
stand.
to do? You can sit if you want.
No, I'm a better stander. I have so much gratitude and love inside me right now. And I am grateful for all of you who are here. And I especially want to address Joan and Gabe, because there is no way I would have the life I have without these books. Even if all the stuff that happened that fed them, some of it's a little dicey, I can never again claim to not have enough. Thank you. I'm going to start with some new things too. This is called Wind. At 10, I was peripatetic and in flames, and never walked if I could flat out gallop, even to school, covering 7 blazing blocks, with a book bag swinging in one hand, then the other, a bit of ballast stuffed with unsigned papers, with stolen comic books and knotted rosaries. Ursa Major held his spot above me, invisible in the yellow morning sky, and the spank of my saddle shoes on the blue stone and concrete, and me bursting past in a blur of gray plaid and sharp elbows, made people scream and leap up on their porches. But I was on fire inside, and so pleased to be mammal. I traveled like panic. I took the weather with me. And oh, thank you. This is called Fundamental. When Jehovah's Witnesses braved our busted door, our mother, impressed with their guts and their elegant shirtwaists, waved them into the kitchen where she had been lonely. The 2 women stood a little behind the man, who held in his brown hands a book that looked chock full of prayers, and our mother lifted her eyes like a pin-curled prophet to the ring of fluorescent light that served as her halo, and asked them, as if God himself were egging her on, would they like some coffee, but instant and with canned milk? And that's when the missionaries noticed us, home from school with the mumps, squatting in the corner, an indigenous people, not of New Jersey, but of this very house. The man with the book took one look at our snotty faces and spoke at last, a prayer of healing and goodness, as the woman in the blue stripes reached in her purse and offered our mother a pack of gum, grape, the best, and 3 pieces of saltwater taffy, the long, not the round kind. When they left, which was then, we jubilated, chewing, though the sour gum set our swollen glands on fire, and we had to dance in a frenzy to not spit it out. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're too sweet. Okay. Okay. This is a piece called For May is the Month of Our Mother. And, well, like you, like Joan, I have a lot of Catholicism in my background. So this was the crowning. The Virgin Mary took up all the month of May in our school, and all we did was drag roses to her and put little paper things on her head. So, and well, you'll see. For May is the month of our mother. When jump ropes smacked the softening tar, we took turns taking Mary home. She was white with a blue screw-off bottom, supplicant hands, and a rosary rattled inside as she swung in our book bags. After supper is good for some, Sister Michael said, or before bed. If you pray the rosary, communism will fall. When my turn alphabetically came for Mary, I rattled her the 2 blocks up the hill, but Catholic in my family was for kids, and communism was a word, not a stick or a stone. My mother was tired. My father was going to hell. I wasn't up to 50 Hail Marys alone, but I couldn't just dump Mary there on my cluttered dresser like a glowing white wimpled bottle of shampoo, while I climbed the catalpa tree or played pies with the others. So I set her down on our suitcase-shaped Victrola and put on Mom's Pericomo Ave Maria. Mary stood on her snake with her begging arms out, glowing. The sky in the window grew orange. The breeze carried lilacs. Next, I played Nelsonetti, Ave Maria. Her 1-inch face held too much sadness to bear. To cheer her up, I played Rum and Coca-Cola, the Andrews Sisters. And our souls were so open from all that Ave Maria that we threw ourselves into the rhythm and jumped on the bed, and I beat Mary like a maraca in my palm. Her burden of black beads clacking thick and loud until one slap too many cracked her right in half, and her beads flung themselves to the floor where they lay like intestines. I learned then to use something right or leave it alone. No, I didn't. I learned 12-inch virgin polystyrene, luminous ivory, black beads, screw-off bottom, ran $4.95 or 20 weeks of allowance. I learned too that Mary was real to crack like that, and I saved a splinter of her shattered gown. And I know she is patron saint of the spring-cracked mind and mother of all who aspire to glow in the dark. Oh. This is outboard. A drinking buddy gave our dad an outboard motor. Dad kept it, up to its orange chin and bilge, in an oil drum up in the yard. And after a few, he'd go out and start it up, yelling, "Get back, you kids." But we were already back and ready to bolt if the green plastic men we'd thrown in up and busted the thing. But no tiny acid-stripped skeletons churned to the surface. The army remained at rest with the worms and the pear cores. All that spring, when he felt good, he'd go watch his motor, his nostrils straining to catch each oily fume, a Chesterfield dropping ash down the front of his work shirt. Once, Shaky Louie, his pal, braved the terrible sunlight to join him in motor watching. And chatty by nature, told us Dad had said soon that our freezer'd be so full of trout, there wouldn't be room left for even one skinny popsicle. By August, we'd scrawled SS Dad on the shiny oil drum, but he never noticed, just stood in the din, smoking, staring. He never did lug that motor out of the oil drum. He let winter do in the only toy he had, though it spat muddy rainbows and roared like a locomotive and gave off the piercing and molten stink of hope. Thank you. The day I got this book, it wasn't the first time I'd seen the cover, but oh God, I love the cover. I sort of put it up on a window. So I still have it there, and I stare at it all the day. And thank you, Joan. Thank you, Gabe. Okay. This is called breathing underwater. Oh, do you remember anybody remember the Weeki-Watchy mermaids? Yeah, when some of us were kids, black and white TV, and everybody telling us to come down to Florida. See the mermaids. Okay, breathing underwater. Florida is just a thumb on a jigsaw puzzle. But underwater, the Weeki-Watchy mermaids pour their tea, cook, exercise, iron clothes, guzzle with muscular skill their grapette soda, with only occasional surreptitious sucks on an air hose hidden in shell-studded scenery. They grin, open eyes afloat in their blue-lit skulls. Holding my breath was a skill I practiced too, like when I was 10 years old and woke to a body lowering onto my body, and a breath that put me in mind of a rotten leg, a thing I'd seen in a book once, and which scared me, but not as much as this body on top of my body, these digging fingers. I was wildly aware that the room I was in was a pigsty, and I was a pig to be sleeping in my clothes, and I wanted to blame it on someone, which would have meant speaking, and I'm so sorry. I wanted to blame it on someone, which would have meant speaking, which I could not do. It would have been too real, and I was too old to blame anyone anyway. I closed my eyes to make the black world blacker. The lamp was within my reach, and a railroad spike I could easily have lifted, and also a bowling ball I'd find on the tracks. But all I could think of was being ashamed and dirty. And grateful the whole thing was happening in black and white. Like those mermaids on TV, their lips and nails a black I knew was red, their long white legs safely fused in their glistening tails. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you know what that was, Gabe? That was my what was that word? Penultimate. This is I learned back in Iowa that the one comes before that is the anti-penultimate. When I was about 10, a family moved in above ours, and the girl was my age, and she didn't quite really read yet. She'd, been neglected a little bit. And I was told to get Franny up to speed over the summer, teach her how to read, and, just what to do, what the lay of the neighborhood was. So this is called New Girl in Town. Cross the street, Franny, if ever you spy Joe Moe, whose hand-hewn tar paper shack we approach on bets, or pitch chunks of pudding stone at from moving cars. You'll want, too, to skirt Donna's uncles, drunk and jolly, who'll sneak through your screen door with snow cones and try to kiss you. And Ronnie V, who just got out of Rahway, and we're not supposed to know what got him there. And St. Ag's School is an iron maiden of dangers, though statues of saints peer out of each dusky corner, and Jesus, his plaster self, tops the entrance stairs, where one day he stared at a second grader's vomit, hand held before his exposed and flaming heart, as if to express distaste for incarnation. Expect more shame to be handed out than blessings, administered lavishly both in word and deed. For girls, 18 inches of steel on open palms. For boys, once slung across a nun's black lap, lusty wax on the seats of their regulation pants. So that's about it, Fran, except for that candy store where the old guy gives out wax lips for Halloween and ends of cold cuts to the dogs he lets inside. He'll say, "Sweetheart, you look pale. Are you on the rag?" If you're hungry, Franny, tell him yes. He'll put his hand on your stomach and then on your forehead, then tell you you're clammy, then toast you a piece of toast. This is, oh, you're very kind. Here it is. Okay, this is called, yeah, I read the right one. Okay, this is called JC and Me in the Summer of '64. Catholicism and puberty duked it out the summer my body broke out of its corral and galloped Patterson's streets in search of sugar through the new and luscious grasses of impure thought. The priest I confessed to dismissed me as overly scrupulous. I was thinking too much about thinking of dirty things and distracted because the word scrupulous started with screw. I left with a head full of sin and 2 holy cards, which he passed me as if they were discards in holy strip poker, a game I imagined instructive and entertaining. The first was Saint Agatha, Sicily's virgin martyr, her eyes rolled up to God, as often mine were. She would not renounce him, despite the terrible tortures he could, being God, have simply plucked her from. If it were me, I'd have just said, Jesus who? Then cantered right out of there with my virgin self and ducked behind the bleachers at Hinchliffe Stadium. The second holy card was Jesus himself, bathed in a golden light and softly smiling, halo tipped back and eyes beaming mercy and mirth. I hadn't noticed till then how handsome he was. Eyes like blue poppies, a nose I regarded with envy, wavy auburn hair with a center part. I pictured the halls of St. Ag's full of boys in caftans, and me with my black hair tossing in the hot pink short shorts that got me suspended from school. Imagine, I thought, when he too was confused and changing, not quite a man yet, and almost but not quite God. Hear me calling his name, though he's already heading toward me, the August wind blowing his robe between his legs, the power to miracle lighting his holy face, a gingery fuzz on his lip, and an eager smile telling me I have powers too. At my nearness, his thoughts will cleave the Patterson Falls, send beer cans and tires jouncing down McBride, and cause the all-the-way hot dogs at Libby's lunch to vault like angels from their very secret sauce. Thank you.
Our ultimate writer sent me a very short bio, but I know from friends, teacher friends at Brooklyn Tech, that his poetry is influential, and as a man, he's influential. Joseph O. Legaspi authored the collections Amphibian, Threshold, and Imago, and the chapbooks Postcards, Aviary, Bestiary, and Subways. He works at Columbia University, teaches at Fordham University, and resides in Queens, New York. Let's hear it for Joseph Legaspi.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Thank you to Danny Schatz. We should give a hand to Danny, and also to the Hoboken Museum for gathering us. And I just want to echo what Kat said. Cannot underscore how important being published and being published by CavanKerry was for me. To be seen, actually, as a young poet, making my way into this cruel literary world, I was seen by Joan for the first time. And that was momentous. I don't know, I'm sure you have a sense of that, how important you were and how important CavanKerry was. And not only to publish my first book, but also my second book. It opened doors, right? It prompted me to educate young people, right? Educate a population of writers. So the gift of being published by CavanKerry not only was momentous for me personally, but I felt that it actually blossomed and helped the literary world. And so for it, I mean, it's not surprising what Danny said, that CavanKerry is the premier, right? Like publisher in New Jersey now is, for me, no surprise whatsoever. And I think also the aesthetic of CavanKerry, just hearing, Kat, and also Gabe, we need your book, right? We need Gabe's book. And your work as well, Joan, tapping into the internal life of a person, and in turn also the life of a community, right? A life of a place. So thank you very much. So I'm actually read from two of my CavanKerry books, and strangely enough, like this is going to be the 20th anniversary, right, of Imago next year. So and it's spring right now, but I'm kind of like, I want to hearken summer. So this is called Shoebox in Early Summer. When I answered the hard, abrupt knocking, I saw a shoebox with my name written in all caps in smudged black crayon. I picked it up, lifted the lid, and discovered a mausoleum of dead insects. The girl who sent me this strange gift had a father who covered their backyard porch with fly traps. The box was sticky with flies, the dominant genus in a multitude of cockroaches, golden honeybees, brittle wasps of disparaging silence, stiff grasshoppers, dragonflies, drab burnt moss, fire ants, the hemispherical ladybugs, maggots, daddy longlegs, and multi-bellied spiders, technically arachnids, fresh, grease-bloodied caterpillars. Squeeze on her way to my door, gnats, beetles, body pieces of death-by-hand symbols, mosquitoes, and in the terrarium center, a praying mantis and a monarch, its wings eye-spot, angry and condescending. I wanted to dump the content at her feet, the girl with cropped hair, a slight dusting of a mustache above her mandible lips. In the privacy of leaves, I used to let her run her fingers through my hair, her hands like the prayerful forelimbs of insects. In school, however, I was continuously cruel. My frog tongue would strike and coil around her suffocated being. When she'd make chase with her puckered, waxy lips, I'd leap and croak my disgust and insults until she was wearied and humiliated, until shred by shreds, the ribbons of her wasted dignity cluttered the schoolyard. Tonight, at a wedding reception, I sit, unaccompanied. It is early summer. Beside bride and groom are posing for photographs on the veranda against a feathery backdrop of a red sunset. Magnolias, luminous as light bulbs, float on the green water. And I see her in her perpetual Catholic school uniform, hunter of insects, wayward lover, lying sideways on a splintered floor, her eyes swollen, on fire, as she rubs the dried mantis and dead butterfly together for friction. Let the dusky sun singe the couple into phosphors, let them burn. So yeah, I was like a little bit of a mean girl back in the day. But I'm gonna read a love poem just to counteract that. This is called Imagine Love Poem to My Mother from My Father. My mermaid, I watch you scaling milkfish. Your hands and arms were silver and your body flecked with otherworldly raindrops. You were a silver mine to be mined. Perched on a high branch of your mother's mango tree, I saw only a glimmer of the blade as you scaled the fish, up and down strokes, repeatedly, gracefully, like an artist whose gift flows through her veins. A strand of your hair danced across your forehead. Sweat trickled down the joyous, strained lines of your neck, and your breasts, like twin bells, I heard their transcendental sounds. The glistening, naked milkfish escaped the warm Pacific for such honor. Kismet, chosen by Neptune, it entangled itself on the fisherman's net and beckoned you with its fresh, clear eyes. You slice its stomach, sweet blade twisting in me, scoop out its innards, the heart, pulled out the gills from underneath its head's protective plates. I almost fell off the tree. There was a deep aching in my chest, and my breathing was shallow. Crouched beside the spigot, your brown arms pumped briskly for water as you cleaned the fish, cradled by the softest hands, blood and scale streaming onto the earth. Didn't you hear the fish mouthing my words as you were salting it? Do unto me the spy up in the thick fruit tree as you have done unto the milkfish. One day, I hope to recite for you these verses, and in my voice you will hear from across the oceans surrounding the archipelago, as if reverberated through the ages, the voice of our future son. So my husband's not here, so I tend to read love poems about him because when he's present, he just kind of like, he cries. It's kind of embarrassing. So I like reading poems without him in the audience. So this is called Whom You Love. And actually it has an epigraph, and this poem actually started off with this epigraph as a prompt. And it's a Creole proverb. Tell me whom you love, and I'll tell you who you are. The man whose throat blossoms with spicy chocolates tempers my ways of flurrying. Is my inner recesses surfacing, paints the bedroom blue because he wants to carry me to the skies. Pear eater in the orchard, witness in his urges and urgencies. My bear, the room turns orchestral. Crooked grin of ice cream persuasion. When I speak, he bursts into seeds and religion, poetry, house, and harmonica. Line dances with his awkward flair, rare steaks, onion rings, makers on the rocks. once a boy pilfering grenadine. Nebraska, Nebraska, Nebraska. Wicked at the door of happiness. At a longed-for distance remains sharply crystalline. Fragments, but by day's end assemble into joint narrative. Does not make me who I am entirely. Heart like a fig, heart like a fig slice. Peonies in a clear round vase singing. A wisp, a gasp, sonorous stutter. Tuning fork deep in my belly, which is also a bell. Evening where there is no church but fire. Sparks, particles, chrysalis into memory. Moth, pod of enormous pleasure, fluttering about on a train. He knows I don't need saving and saves me anyhow. Our often misunderstood kind of love is dangerous. Darling, fill my cup. The dove has come to roost. So my new book, Amphibian, is actually coming out in mid-April, actually. And again, I'm really, thankful for CavanKerry for rejecting this manuscript, because it made me actually work on the manuscript, right? Like, it was not ready. It was not ready. And yeah, so again, this process keeps giving. And I'm also happy to be invited here because it meant that I'm still part of the CavanKerry family. So thank you for that. So I'm just going to read a couple of poems from this new manuscript, from this new book. And also, this book has a lot of immigration stuff in it, especially what's going on now, which is really awful and cruel with ICE. And so that's kind of like the theme of this book, or it touches upon, immigration. But also it delves into the metaphor of amphibious living, which what I call being resilient and being able to actually live and thrive in various landscape and atmospheres, and I use that to describe not only immigrants, actually, or migrants, but also, by extension, queer people as well. So this is the title poem, and then I'm going to read another poem after this. It's called Amphibians. In Greek, amphibian means on both sides of life, as in amphibians live on land and in water, as in immigrants leave lands and cross waters. While amphibians lay shell-less eggs, immigrants give birth to Americans. In water, gilled tadpoles sprout limbs. On land, amphibians develop lungs. Immigrants develop lungs. Breathe in pine, fuel, and cold atmosphere. Amphibians' damp skin oxygenates. Immigrants toil and slumber deathly. Their colors brighten, they camouflage. They've been known to fall out of the sky, completely at home in the rain. And this is just like my ultimate poem. Again, thank you, Danny Schatz, which is one of my favorite name ever. And thank you, CavanKerry Press. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Hoboken Museum. This one's called Hamburger, and also has an epigraph by the chef Dan Barber, who runs the Blue Hill farm, and the restaurant. So his quote goes, "The great curse of American food culture is that we have no food culture." Hamburger. In 1984, when I arrived in the United States, pastel neon in the dream pastiche deserts of Olympics-fisted Los Angeles, I wanted my first meal to be a hamburger, drenched in tomato, not banana ketchup, squeezed between white sesame seed buns, not pandesal, Filipino morning roll eaten sweetly any time of day. That had to wait. On arrival in a town called Bell, I was served rice under pork chicken adobo, and the rest of my first week a feast as if I've never left. Pancit garnished with shredded veggies for longevity, oxtails, pork hocks, calves' feet bisque in peanut butter sauce, pig stewed in shrimp paste, bitter melon, chayote, achiote. The women lived practically in the kitchen, how things had not yet changed. My grandmother chopping, stir-frying, frying, boiling, steaming, mashing. Melodious sound that carried the bewildering loneliness of a foreign home momentarily out of doors. Since the table was not big enough, we ate together, scattered throughout the 2-bedroom, 1-bath house shared by 3 families. On mats on the floor, we children loved sleeping side by side. Oh God, I lost my On mats on the floor, we children loved sleeping side by side. Hot dogs rotating on a carnival seller's grill. But I was growing impatient, the fast food that would transform me into an American I hadn't yet ingested, a kind of superhero pill. Until my first day of school in my 7th grade cafeteria, where I was served a round patty of compressed meat, boiled, charred, yawning, open face next to curly potatoes that glowed a meteorite orange. I could not contain my joy. I tore and poured on packets of ketchup, discarded the wilted iceberg like dryer sheet, clamped the hamburger between my shaky hands, and chomped momentously into my first taste of America. Salted, starchy, chewy beginning to a lifetime consumption, powdered with sugar, melted as margarine, deep fried, blue dyed, ice over, jelloed, marshmallowed, popcorned, bite sized, on the run. Thank you.
Before I say thank you, I got to ask a question. Is banana ketchup a real thing? Okay, I was curious about that. I'd like to thank our writers, Joan, Gabe, Kat, and Joseph. Let's give them another round of applause. Now, this was a free event, so look in your pockets and look in your souls. And there's a donation box over there, and there's plenty of books for sale, and we actually have the writers here in person to sign them. So as you get a bite to eat, as you get a drink, peruse the books, and thank you again for being here.